What's up, guys? In this video, I'm going to share with you my thoughts on what I think the best answer to our gun violence issue. And that basically is a two-part answer. The first part is not what is commonly argued for, more regulation and removal of guns, but the opposite is actually introduction of more guns. Having more firearms around and more weapons around actually will prevent gun violence much, much more so than removing them completely. Think about this. Removing them completely, you're allowing a very small minority of people to have these weapons and everyone else be fucking defenseless. Okay, what that will lead to is an environment where people are being brutalized and people have no way to protect themselves. Okay, so you're leaving total power in the hand of this small minority of people. And think about this as it applies to anything in life. Giving that kind of power will ultimately lead to big-time corruption and abuse of that power. All right? So the reason I say introducing more guns is a much better and effective solution than the removal is because just thinking again that put yourself in a situation where you live in a place where you know that guns are very heavily regulated, like where I live in New Jersey. Okay, New Jersey is one of the worst states in the United States as far as regulation, control, and the amount of difficulty you have to go through in order to get a gun. Virtually no one in the state except for police officers or ex-police officers are ever given the license to carry the weapons. Okay, so there is no concealed carry for anyone in New Jersey except for cops. And the result of that is the criminals go around knowing that. You know what I'm saying? There was a time in my life where I carried guns. Fortunately for those citizens or the rest of society, I never targeted any of them. And the people that I would target were bad guys who also had guns. But not everyone is like me. There are criminals out there who have these guns and they know that the people are just basically sitting ducks with no way to protect themselves. It's very easy for anyone to find out who has a gun and who doesn't. You know, it's not a difficult thing. So they go around and they commit crazy crimes and commit crazy acts of violence. Now imagine the opposite of that. Imagine a place where most people had guns. All right? Most men walked around with a gun. Imagine this now. They're trained in the use of these guns and everyone knows that they have them. What would then happen is these criminals would be fucking scared to death to do anything out of character or to commit any kind of crime because they know the chances are somebody within eyesight or earshot, whoever's in witness of this crime, is going to stop me. They're going to pull out their gun and they're going to fucking stop me and they're going to put an end to this shit and I'm going to be in a pool of blood on the ground. Okay? Survival is the ultimate instinct and the ultimate urge and will overpower any other urge. People are not trying to die. If they wanted to die and they were suicidal, they'd take those same guns and they'd end their lives. That's not the case. Even the baddest fucking criminals I know of, they didn't want to die. All right? Very few circumstances where people are suicidal and they don't just take their lives themselves. So fear of being stopped by a weapon is the best deterrent for gun violence. Okay? The second part of the answer, or my suggestion, is that we need to focus on parenting and on why our society is in such a decline. Think back just 30, 40 years. For those of you that are too young to do so, research, okay? I grew up in the 80s. Even up until the 1980s, people were not shooting each other the way they are now, especially these school shootings, all right? People were not doing that. It was not like that. There was not as much violence as there is now. All right? People were much more trusting of others at that time than they are now. Now think about what factors have changed that have caused this big difference in such a short period of time as far as people are concerned. And I'm going to tell you what the answer is. You may not like it. You may not want to hear it, but it's the answer regardless. And that answer is the breakdown of family structure. That answer is the removal of shame, where, as an example, people in the past would not feel okay with having children with multiple fathers, okay? They would not feel okay about that. There was shame associated with that. And also, beyond the shame, the understanding that there is nothing better for a child than to have both mother and father raise them as a unit, okay? And to think that we've gotten to the point now where so many, as a matter of fact, when it comes to black people and minorities, much more so than white people, even the majority of kids that are being born out of wedlock, which is not really the problem I have. That's just a social contract. But they're born in situations where they don't have their fathers around to raise them. They don't have it. So you have one generation of those kids becoming adults, and now they're the ones having children, and the cycle continues. And here we are now with a bunch of fucking knuckleheads running around with no fucking understanding of how to be a man and how to act right and how to think right. They've been raised by females. They've been raised by women. So emotionally, they're going to respond more so in a way that a female would than a man would, because they haven't been taught how to be a man. You understand? It's impossible for somebody to teach you to be a boxer, let's say, if they're not a boxer themselves. They can't teach you that. And you could take that analogy and apply it to anything. I'm a diamond setter by profession in the past, okay? If I wanted to teach you how to be a diamond setter, it would be impossible for me to do so without my having that knowledge first and being that myself. The same applies, unfortunately, for broken families and children who are born and are not raised with a father. It just fucks them up. It fucks up society in general, because now we have this huge percentage of people who are coming in and who are lacking themselves, now rubbing off on the rest of society, and times and trends just changing to the point where there's acceptance of what I just said. Nobody gives a fuck anymore. Everything's acceptable. There is no moral standard anymore. And look what we have as a result. I work with young kids in jail, okay, in custody. I try to help these kids. And in doing that, I have to get to know them. The number one common thing among them, okay, the common theme in the whole fucking jail is that they don't have fathers. There's no father there. That's not to say that people, who are raised in a two-family home are not going to commit gun violence. But what I'm saying is, this is a huge part of the problem. Society in itself. Blame the parents. Blame the people for producing such a fucked up next round of children. They're at fault. If my children grow up to be little pieces of shit, then I'm at fault. The answer to that is, the dad was a piece of shit, and that's why the kids are a piece of shit. So let's look to ourselves first before we start wanting to take away the rights of other people. And I'm not even arguing for myself, guys. I'm permanently banned from having any firearms. I'm under a law called certain persons. I can never have a weapon again. So I'm not even saying this for myself. I'm just saying for the rights of the rest of the society. People trying to take their guns away is crazy. Okay? It's crazy because there's always going to be a bad guy out there that if he comes into your home and tries to harm you and your children and you're left there with nothing, looking like a fucking idiot, you lose. And just like that, it's game over. And not game over where I get another chance and I could reconsider my decision. Game over, you're fucking dead. And your children are dead. And could be worse, violated and hurt and done terrible things unto. So think about this, guys. The answer to gun violence is straighten up our own fucking act ourselves. Create a better society of people and a better standard to which we're going to be accepting of. And also, loosen the gun rules now. Loosen regulation, because none of these people who are committing gun violence give a fuck about gun permits and laws anyway. I hope you guys can agree with at least some of this. If not, please engage in the comment section, and thank you for listening.